Cool. Thanks, Elena. That's super cool. The voice. I'm kind of sad that I'm not going to get to come to your breakout session because it looks super interesting. Hopefully, we can catch up later. Cool. So hi. Hi, I'm Tom, and I'm the founder of LabWorks.io, which makes Voice Arcade, and I'm going to be talking about building voice games that people love. Now, I've just been told by Tim that he was expecting that I would use some GIFs in these slides, but unfortunately not this time, so sorry about that. Cool, so just a little bit about myself. Like as Tim said, a conversation designer and Alexa champion. What's maybe relevant in this kind of talk as a media talk is that I started my career in the media as a journalist, and I worked for kind of several large publications before moving into kind of tech industry. So had a kind of a bunch of experience in the kind of the content creation side of stuff and the running a content team, which has been really, really helpful then in kind of building games, and then kind of moved into product design. And that's kind of almost how I became a conversation designer, because I was working in product design and suddenly here was this thing that needed words as like the interface. And I thought, well, great, here's like the kind of experience from my kind of journalistic past and my kind of current product design part or experience, and I could kind of like meld them together. And also, I'm a massive fan of board games, and just so you don't think I'm making that up, this is literally just half of my collection. You know, to run a games company, you have to be a little bit obsessed with games. So why are we building voice games anyway? What is it about them that's so great? I think voice games really, really interesting because they bring people together. Most gaming is something that you play between you and the game. It's a solo activity, or even if you are playing a multiplayer game across kind of the internet or whatever, you're not with the other person at the same time. Smart speakers are different. They're communal devices. They're designed to be used by multiple people at the same time. And that means that voice games have this kind of really unique place in the kind of the digital gaming landscape of being able to create these kinds of games that facilitate conversations. You know, why do you even have family game night? It's not because the family loves games, it's because they want a reason to spend time together. And that's kind of what we see our games as doing, kind of promoting opportunities for people to spend time together. We also think they're kind of really interesting from a kind of accessibility perspective. Some of our most ardent fans are visually impaired, and you know that they really have been left out by the gaming industry for a very long time. You know, gaming has traditionally been very focused on visuals, and we've kind of created games that one of the users it kind of described to me as, I can now play this like I'm on a level playing field. I don't have to kind of start from behind. And I thought that was really interesting. And, you know, and that's kind of the goal with accessibility in general, is not to do something special for someone, but just to make sure that everyone's kind of starting from the same point, that everybody's got a fair chance. And I think that that's really, really interesting. And finally, they're super easy to learn. You know, we do a lot of user research, and many of the people that play our games would never play a console game or a mobile game because they think they're kind of too difficult to get started. You know, we have plenty of users that are kind of in their late 60s, 70s, even older. You know, and you kind of, they talk about really discovering gaming for the first time by playing through their smart speaker, because they just thought that gaming wasn't something for them. It was too kind of fast paced, too difficult, too much to kind of learn. And we're able to kind of guide them in a very gentle way, because at the end of the day, they're just having a conversation and everybody already knows how to do that. So that's why I think voice games are really, really exciting. So I'm just going to show you what Voice Arcade is. So Tim, I think you're going to play a video for me, hopefully.
Voice Arcade is the home of some of the greatest games on Alexa. Featuring a wide variety of award-winning games, and with more being added all the time, there's something for everyone. Whether you're on your own or playing with the whole family, these games are sure to get you talking. Experience the very best of voice gaming today. Just say, Alexa, open Voice Arcade.
I did that so that all of your devices would go off. Sorry about that. Cool. So, as I said, what is Voice Arcade? It's a curated portfolio of high-quality games. Something that we found from kind of years of building games on smart speaker is that the quality is very, very variable. There are some really great experiences on there, like Deal or No Deal, Question of the Day, there's some really great things, but there's also a lot of stuff that, hasn't been looked at in a long time. It's hard for users to kind of differentiate between what's good and what's not. There's no kind of visual clues when you're talking to a smart speaker. And so Voice Arcade provides a really easy way for them to discover the top things to play. They just need to say open Voice Arcade, and they can be confident that everything in there is going to work and be fun to play. We also pioneered this kind of like simple, trustworthy monetization model. In free to play gaming on mobile is all about kind of buying power-ups and lives and almost kind of getting the user addicted in order to get them to spend more money, and actually has quite a bad reputation these days. We were very conscious that smart speakers are kind of communal devices, as I said, that are in homes, often homes with children, and we didn't want to kind of create a business model that was encouraging or trying to encourage kids to get addicted to games. And so we came up with this really simple subscription model where people pay like 99p a month, and that gives them access to everything. There's nothing else to buy. There's no kind of additional things. And we found that that's kind of resonated really, really well. Above all, it's kind of like a promise to our fans to really kind of keep pushing the boundaries and to kind of create their perfect games. So we spend a lot of time thinking about and talking to our users and the community and trying to kind of understand what they want to do with their smart speaker and how to kind of how to build games that they enjoy. And, we kind of look at that as a way to kind of push the industry forward rather than just kind of try to do the same old thing. So I thought it might be interesting to kind of talk about like how you go about building a good voice game that then you could put out there. So say you've got an idea for a game. Well, the first thing to do is to do some market research, and to look beyond the voice industry. I think voice developers sometimes can be a bit insular at looking at, okay, like these other people are doing this or whatever, and they kind of end up missing a trick, because many of the most interesting lessons and the kind of the things that we as people creating games need to learn in order to make great voice games are actually things that are being talked about in mobile, things that are being done in board games, things that are being done in kind of like role-playing games. I mean, if you play a D&D, Dungeons and Dragons, you could, all of that is really important for understanding what kind of games are going to work. I mean, you can't really build good games unless you play and love playing games. Once you've kind of done that research, you need to do some kind of rapid prototyping. You need to build stuff, but you need to keep it really simple at this stage. You're just trying to kind of bottom out the kind of the core mechanic, so that you can find out how things feel. And that should be a very kind of quick iterative process. When we're building a game, we might expect to build kind of like 3 or 4 different game mechanics for the same game, and to test them out and see how they feel before kind of coalescing around one. And finally, co-design with your community. I think that this is especially important with voice, where, there is no such thing as a perfect conversation. There is no like one way to talk about something. Everybody talks in a different way, and every conversation is unique. And the only way you are ever going to have any hope of capturing all of that kind of information to be able to include it in your design and your language training model and stuff is to be building these products with your community. So talking to your top users, but also talking to the ones that struggle, the ones that have problems, to find out what needs to be done, how to fix stuff, how to kind of take account of stuff. It's really designing and building a good voice app is much more like user research than standard kind of product design. And so you really need to do that a lot more. And then how do you make it fun? Well, you got making sure it works. I'm still shocked when I kind of look around the Alexa Skills Store and Google Action Store, just how many things don't work properly, how kind of like screens don't load in the right place, or it doesn't understand the user, or just the skill outright crashes. It's like it's almost every single skill out there, and like every single game out there has this problem. And that has caused me to come to believe that QA is the most important role in a voice team. It's not, something that you kind of do at the end. I do our QA myself now because I just think that it's so essential that somebody's kind of like sitting there being like, does it work? Does it work? Does it work? That you can't really leave it to the end and you can't give it to someone else. You need to get into a regular user testing and iteration cycle. People often think, okay, well, I'm just going to user test when I've got something to show. That's not actually how you do it. Like the best user research you can do is the speculative talking to people about how do you use your smart speaker, like what things do you like, what don't you like, what did you wish it would do if it could do anything. That's the kind of stuff where you learn about the concepts that are going to help you make great games. Usability testing is just one tiny part of that, but it is worth saying that it's only worth learning things that you could do something about. So I've also seen teams kind of over-index on research because they think like, research will solve everything for us. And it's like, research is really helpful if you're going to give yourself the time to implement the learnings from the research. But if you're not going to give yourself the time to implement the learnings, there's not much point in doing the research anyway. And I'd say the other thing is that you've got to continue to invest in the state of the art. It's not good enough just to copy what someone else is doing. You really got to be pushing stuff forward because user expectations are rising massively. And what was cool and interesting one month is like blasé the next month, and then the month after it's boring. Like you've got to kind of continually keep pushing it forward, and you can't do that if you're just following what other people are doing. You've got to kind of be out in front. So getting people to play, it's the thing that everybody really cares about is how you get people to play your games and pay for them. Something that we do, we're very focused on the entire global market. We have our games available in 14 countries. And we work with native speakers in each country. We have multiple native speakers in each country that help us to tailor our games to those locales and, help us to kind of understand the local culture. A big part of what we've been doing is building out trusted teams in those places that can kind of, they also need to understand voice. It's not enough to just have them, write some translations and think that that's going to be okay. These are people that are going to need to help you update your language models. They're going to need to QA your games. They're going to need to do all the kind of other stuff that goes around building a successful product. And you've really got to take the time to invest in that, if you want to do a language that's other than your native language properly. I think there's been a lot of complaints in the last few years, particularly against Amazon, but it's also true of Google that, they don't give third-party skills and actions, things made by third-party developers, enough promotion. I used to think that too. But these days I've kind of come to the conclusion that actually it's really about retention rather than marketing. if you're managing to keep a hold of most of your users month after month, you don't need very much promotion to reach big numbers quite quickly. And I think that the kind of people that have been complaining about promotion in the past are really complaining about it because they don't know what to do about retention. And so I would kind of encourage you, if you think that you've got a marketing or a promotion problem, you probably don't. It's probably a retention problem, and to kind of start focusing and thinking about like, well, how do I get people to keep coming back to my game? And finally, with the kind of the paying bit, you need to really test your value proposition. You need to be talking to users, finding out what they want and what they're going to be willing to pay for. You know, that is as much an art as it is a science. You know, there's kind of things you can do, but at the end of the day, eventually nobody is going to pay for something unless you ask them to pay for it. And the trick is to try and understand when people say, oh, I don't want to pay for that, whether they actually are going to or not. And that's something that you can kind of pick up through data. But Rome wasn't built in a day. This is a photo from my favorite non-voice game, Civ 6. Building good voice apps. I don't know that there is anyone in the industry, in the voice gaming industry, including us, that has really built the perfect voice game. Like, they all have problems. They've all got room for improvement. I think that that's actually really exciting to me, because it kind of means that the potential is still massive. We know that there are kind of like 200 million smart speakers out there, and 20% of people play games every month on them. We're just waiting for someone to come up with that kind of concept and to build something to the level of quality needed that people will just play and keep coming back. And that's when you'll kind of see the first proper breakthrough voice gaming success. And that's really it, apart from to encourage you to go and open Voice Arcade, and then let me know what you think by emailing me at tom@voicearcade.com.